The podcast begins with the shocking announcement that Joe Biden has dropped out of the 2024 presidential race. This unprecedented move was revealed via Twitter, catching many by surprise. Biden released a letter stating that while he had intended to seek re-election, he now believes it is in the best interest of the party and country for him to stand down and focus on fulfilling his duties as president for the remainder of his term. In his letter, Biden touted his administration's accomplishments, including economic growth, investments in infrastructure, lowering prescription drug costs, and passing climate legislation. He expressed gratitude to the American people and Vice President Kamala Harris. Notably, Biden did not initially endorse Harris as his successor in the letter, though he later tweeted his full support for her to be the Democratic nominee. Shapiro analyzes the implications of Biden's sudden withdrawal. He notes that Biden never explicitly states why he's dropping out, instead framing it as a selfless act for the good of the party and country. He argues the real reason is likely Biden's poor performance in polls against Donald Trump, especially after their recent debate where Biden appeared confused and frail. Shapiro discusses the reactions from key Democrats. Kamala Harris quickly released a statement praising Biden's leadership and expressing gratitude for his endorsement. The Clintons also swiftly backed Harris, possibly to take Hillary off the table as a potential candidate. Interestingly, the Obamas did not immediately endorse Harris, leading to speculation about potential behind-the-scenes maneuvering. The podcast explains there are two potential paths for selecting a new Democratic nominee. The first is a virtual convention where delegates vote, scheduled for August 1 to 7. The second option is an open convention in Chicago on August 19th. The Democratic establishment seems to be pushing for the virtual convention to quickly lock in Harris as the nominee and avoid a messy floor fight. Shapiro notes that other potential candidates like Josh Shapiro, Gavin Newsom, and Gretchen Whitmer appear to be falling in line behind Harris. This suggests the party is coalescing around her as the presumptive nominee, though the process is not yet official. The podcast delves into the strengths and weaknesses of Kamala Harris as the probable Democratic standard-bearer. On the positive side, she's younger and more energetic than Biden, which could help counter Trump's age-related attacks. She may also energize certain Democratic constituencies, particularly women and voters of color. However, Shapiro points out several potential liabilities for Harris. These include her poor performance as a presidential candidate in 2020, her unpopularity as vice president, and her association with the Biden administration's controversial policies. The podcast plays clips highlighting Harris's awkward public speaking style and tendency to laugh inappropriately when asked tough questions. Shapiro suggests Republicans will likely attack Harris for being complicit in covering up Biden's declining mental state. They may also focus on her record as California Attorney General and her more liberal policy positions. The podcast speculates on who Harris might choose as her running mate. Possibilities mentioned include Andy Beshear, governor of Kentucky, Josh Shapiro, governor of Pennsylvania, Gretchen Whitmer, governor of Michigan, and J.B. Pritzker, governor of Illinois. Shapiro suggests Harris will likely look for a white male to balance the ticket, similar to how Obama chose Biden in 2008. The podcast covers Donald Trump's initial response to Biden's withdrawal. Trump released a statement calling Biden unfit for office and blaming him for problems like the border crisis. He also tweeted that he'll now have to defeat the Democrats a fourth time. Shapiro analyzes how Trump's campaign strategy may need to shift with Harris as the likely opponent. He notes that Trump has been presenting a more moderate image lately, even defending the media's coverage of his recent assassination attempt. The podcast plays a clip of Trump at a rally mocking his own hair and distancing himself from the controversial Project 2025 conservative policy agenda. Shapiro argues that Trump now has an advantage in appealing to moderate voters as the Democratic Party appears in chaos. He also suggests that unlike in previous elections, there's now a permission structure for mainstream voters to openly support Trump without stigma. The podcast concludes by discussing how Biden's withdrawal reshapes the 2024 race. Shapiro argues that while Trump still has an advantage, it's now a very different contest. Republicans will need to develop new lines of attack against Harris, who is a more formidable debater than Biden. The key question going forward, according to Shapiro, is whether Harris can successfully distance herself from the unpopular aspects of the Biden administration while still claiming credit for its accomplishments. He also wonders if she can improve her personal favorability ratings, which have been quite low as vice president. Shapiro emphasizes that pressure should be put on Harris to address Biden's fitness to serve out the remainder of his term. As vice president, she has the constitutional authority to initiate the 25th Amendment process if Biden is truly incapacitated. The podcast suggests this will be a major point of contention in the coming months. The podcast highlights the apparent chaos within the Biden administration surrounding his withdrawal. Reports indicate that many White House staffers and campaign aides were completely blindsided by the announcement, learning about it from Twitter like everyone else. Shapiro plays clips of senior Democrats emphatically stating just days earlier that Biden was committed to running for re-election. This lack of coordination raises questions about the decision-making process within the administration and Biden's own state of mind. Shapiro suggests it lends credence to concerns about Biden's cognitive decline and the influence of those around him, including family members like his son Hunter. The podcast covers the varied reactions from Democratic Party figures to Biden's withdrawal. Many, like Chuck Schumer and Nancy Pelosi, praised Biden as a patriot for stepping aside. Shapiro argues this rings hollow, given that these same leaders were likely instrumental in pushing Biden out behind the scenes. He notes the irony of Democrats who just days ago were insisting Biden was fit to serve, now celebrating his decision to step down. The podcast suggests this further undermines the party's credibility and raises questions about their honesty regarding Biden's capabilities over the past few years. Shapiro discusses how some media figures and tech leaders are responding to the changing political landscape. He plays a clip of Facebook founder Mark Zuckerberg praising Trump's reaction to the recent assassination attempt as badass. The podcast argues this represents a shift in how influential figures feel comfortable talking about Trump compared to previous elections. Shapiro suggests this could be significant, as it may signal a broader willingness among moderate and independent voters to openly support Trump in a way they didn't in 2016 or 2020. The podcast concludes by emphasizing that while Trump currently has an advantage, the race is far from over. Shapiro urges Republicans not to become complacent, arguing they need to work even harder now that Biden is out of the picture. He reiterates that the key factors going forward will be 1. How successfully Harris can rebrand herself and distance herself from Biden's unpopularity. 2. Whether Trump can maintain his more moderate messaging and appeal to centrist voters. 3. How the parties navigate the unusual situation of having a lame duck president who is widely seen as unfit to serve. 4. The impact of external events, particularly in foreign policy, given the perception of U.S. leadership in flux. Shapiro ends by noting that the 2024 election has entered uncharted territory, with potential implications not just for domestic politics, but for America's global standing and national security. He urges listeners to stay engaged and informed as this unprecedented situation continues to unfold.